Thank you, Mr. President. I would like you to imagine an 18-year-old young woman attending one of her first college classes. It's one of her first days away from home. She grew up in a religious household. She comes to class dressed in a way that honors her family's faith tradition. Now, after the class is over, she's called down by her professor and told that the way she is dressed, which is not immodest or inappropriate, but that the way she is dressed is unacceptable to him and is in fact a crime under Georgia law. Now imagine that. Imagine an authority figure telling this young woman the first time she's away from home that her faith tradition is not only wrong, it's not only different, but it's a crime. This is not an abstract hypothetical circumstance. This happened at Georgia State University to a young woman named McKoon. And for those who say that we do not have a problem with the government repressing people of faith and being able to exercise their faith the way they choose, this is an uncomfortable example, because it is an example that does not fit the false narrative that has been pushed by opponents of religious freedom legislation. Now, I was actually called about this case during the interim, and the Georgia State University student who works for the student newspaper there, the Signal, said, well, isn't there some legislative solution to Ms. Khan being told that she's violated Georgia's Anti-Mask Act? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, there is. We passed it last year. It's the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. But these things will continue to happen. We will continue to see this sort of thing occur as long as we have a legal environment that allows this sort of thing to happen. And so I think that's wrong. And I know that there are people who have agreed with me on the religious freedom issue who will say, well, but she's a Muslim and she is wearing a veil and I don't like that. Well, let me tell you something. I may not look like Ms. Khan. We may not share the same faith tradition, but we rise and fall on the same legal protections in the Constitution and the same legal standard under Georgia law. And a government that can tell Ms. Khan not to honor her faith tradition in a lecture hall at a public college or university can do the same thing to a Christian, the same thing to a Jew, the same thing to someone of any faith tradition. And when we talk about Georgia being a welcoming and inclusive state, I wonder, are we telling people the story of Ms. Khan? Are we telling people the kind of thing that goes on? And Ms. Khan happened to handle this with a lot of grace and class while quietly and in a dignified way asserting her religious freedom. And the university eventually backed down because of the publicity. But is that what we want to have to rely on? Do we want to have to rely on the news media calling somebody out? Or should we just have a legal environment where a professor would not dare to say to a student, to a Sikh wearing a turban, to a Christian wearing a cross, that's not appropriate. Don't bring that into my classroom. And if you do it again, you might be facing criminal sanction. That's wrong. We're better than that. And so it's certainly my hope that this will be the year that we will pass basic, fundamental protections of the right of free exercise here in Georgia, as 31 other states have seen fit to do, and as has been done at the federal level for now 24 years. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.